We've had a lot of conversations about the odds of retaining a majority for the Republican Party in that chamber. How are you feeling at 5:30 p.m. on this day after?
Other than exhausted, because I was up all night, great. I think that we'll control that. We'll keep control of the House. Probably 3 to 5 seats, so it's going to be extremely close. But we're feeling very confident as I sit here today.
Sarah, you have a better sense of what frontline Republicans were thinking, what their communities and electorates were saying going into this campaign than probably anyone we're going to talk to on the program here today. I would just love your 30,000-foot view on how a perceived Democratic advantage in the White House and at least in the House of Representatives when it comes to Capitol Hill turned overnight into what appears to be a bit of a red wave. This was not a close election. Why did Republicans do so well?
Well, there's a couple of things. I mean, in all due respect to the vice president, she ran a good campaign, but she had 2 crucial errors. And one of them was when she was on The View, and she could not think of one way she separated herself from President Biden. And President Biden, we all know, is in the 40s approval rating. Very nice man, but the country was kind of tired of him and wanted to move him out, and she couldn't do anything there. And then there was an ad run against her. The Trump campaign ran with her own words saying that she thinks tax dollars should go to pay for sex changes for prisoners. That did not go well. I know the Trump campaign ran that over 30,000 times, and she did not respond to that. So those are 2 really turning points. And then to be honest, because of those turning points, Trump gained a lot of momentum, and he pulled a lot of members through with him. So in Republican Main Street Partnership, we actually looking to add 21 new members. So we'll be well over 100 members come January.
Well, then it becomes a question of the will of the members. If Donald Trump is going to have a Republican House and Senate, it becomes a question of cooperation. When he has outlined a very ambitious agenda when it comes to cutting taxes, for example, Sarah, things that bipartisan, nonpartisan institutions say could add trillions of dollars to the deficit. We know many in the Republican Party want to exercise more fiscal discipline. And I just wonder, even if we do get the red sweep, if you think everything is going to be green lit, or there may still be difficulty getting this through the House and Senate.
I think you're still going to have to compromise. I mean, as I said, I think we will have the House and the Senate. But, you know, we're going to have it with members that still live in very swing purple districts. So you're going to have to compromise with them. I think the president will put his agenda out there. We will have some discussions. We'll compromise, and then hopefully we'll get some good legislation passed for the country. I do think there will be a continuation of the tax cuts, maybe not as deep as people would like, but I think that you'll see that because a lot of Republicans do feel that it will help the economy. I know there's a potential deficit increase, but they think it will help move the country forward and hopefully deal with some of the inflation. I know inflation's come down, but it needs to come down a little bit more to help the American people out there.
I'd love to ask you about the looming leadership battles on Capitol Hill, and we can start with the leader of the House, in this case, Speaker Johnson, who we heard from coming in here. He was on stage, by the way, with Donald Trump last night. He made his way from Louisiana to West Palm Beach in time for the rally. Does he remain Speaker if the Republicans hold control of the House? There'll be no continued contest here, the likes we've seen over the last year?
I don't know that answer. I don't get a vote in that one. I think that will be discussion. I don't see why he does not at this point. People like him. He's done a good job. But I know he wanted to hold elections next week. I don't think that's going to be possible because I still think there's some seats in California that will not be called yet. Wow. So I think that the majority will not be cemented in to be able to have elections next week.
Well, it's a good reminder that we do still have a ways to go here, even if we know who the 47th president will be. And we know, of course, that Republicans will retain, for sure, the majority in the Senate. So their leadership is also in question. We heard from the outgoing Republican leader in the Senate, Mitch McConnell, on that earlier today, talking specifically about the successful Senate campaigns run this cycle and giving a shout out to Steve Daines.
I want to give particular credit to Steve Daines. I had that job at the NRSC a few years back. I've never seen a better performance. He focused on getting quality candidates, making sure they actually got the nomination.
Sarah, we've all been expecting that the next Republican Senate leader would be one of the Johns. Do you think Steve Daines could be a dark horse candidate that emerges now that Donald Trump is going to be the president?
I think he certainly could. I'm not sure he wants it, though. With any luck, maybe he'll stay at the senatorial committee, because I agree with Senator Mitch McConnell. Steve Daines, who I know well, he does a lot of Main Street briefings for us, is wonderful. Candidates do matter, and he executed, and we definitely will have control. I think that we're even going to win in Pennsylvania as well. So maybe, but I really think he'll not throw his hat in. I think probably John Thune will have the best chance of becoming the Senate. But again, I don't get to play in those because I don't have a pin, so I get to just watch.